Hey guys, hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Mousy, the ultimate SL clout chaser, and I have a treat for you guys here today. I'm here with Angel from Luxe LA, also known as Governor Luxembourg. Hi Angel, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. So, guys, we have a special treat for you today. So, Angel's going to introduce herself shortly, but basically, we're going to talk about opening an RP sim, what it takes to sustain one, what are some of the pros and cons. We're going to talk about rentals, businesses on the RP sim, some pros and cons, the ups and downs, the cyclical nature of this business, how it compares to other SL businesses, and just whatever comes to mind. Like, we're just going to learn a little bit about more about Angel and how long she's been running Luxe LA, what inspired her to do this, and where she is now in the entire process. So with that being said, let me introduce Angel. I've just introduced her, so let her introduce herself rather. So go ahead, Angel.
All right. Well, hi, Cloud Chase Gang. Um, Known as Angel, kind of in and out of Second Life. And I've been on Second Life for over 15 years, but I've had my roleplay community, Luxe LA in particular, for about, I would say 6 years now. We opened in 2018. Besides Second Life and running the roleplay community, I also stream other video games, particularly roleplay games as well, like 5M. So if you guys want to check out more about the community or anything I'm doing in and out of SL, definitely go to angelfacetv.com and you'll find all of my links.
Great. And I'll put the links down in the description below so that all you have to do is click and you don't have to search too hard. So, Angel, let's just get right into it. First, tell us, how did you find Second Life and what did you do when you first started? And tell us the evolution of your gameplay, if you want to even call it a game, and how you ended up here.
Ooh, okay. How did I find Second Life? I found it 15, 16, 17 years ago by Googling. I was Googling what to do when you're bored and alone, and Second Life popped up, funny enough. And I joined and quickly kind of just caught on and was really excited about the idea that there was limitless possibilities for what you could do here. I've always been super into film and fantasy and sci-fi and things like that. So that's mostly what I hopped into when I first started playing Second Life was roleplay communities. I've done Avatar, I've done Game of Thrones, a lot of different urban sims, school roleplay. I was always on some type of role play sim. That was the most fun thing to me, as far as Second Life goes. And I've been here ever since, honestly. I mean, I've taken breaks here and there like most people do. You know, you take a few years off, but I've always came back. So there's something to say about Second Life's staying power and how dedicated, how easy it is to like get dedicated to this game. It's kind of hard to leave once it gets you in your grip.
Absolutely. And do you think it's because of the connections you make with other people, or what is it that keeps you here?
I think it's a combination of, the people, of course. It's a social platform. I think that's why it popped up when I put that keyword alone, like I was in a new city, didn't have friends yet, in real life, and just was looking for some type of social interaction and connection. And Second Life is the perfect place for that if you go to the right places to find people. And that's probably also why I'm so passionate about roleplay communities here, because just communities in general, it's very easy to rent a cheap plot in the sky and you end up being isolated on a game that should be like a social network in a sense. So I definitely think that the people are a big part of what brings people back. or the ability to meet people is a big reason why people come back. But also, I think the creative playground of it. I've always been since day one, even though I was mostly in role play sims for fun. I was always doing little things to just be creative and make my own, sim. I've done businesses. I've done all sorts of businesses since I've been here. Sorority, just doing things that I could put my own creative spin on is a lot of fun to me and very rewarding.
I can definitely see that. So, tell us, how did you end up going from participating in other people's role play communities to starting your own?
I think it really started when I finally found what I felt was like the perfect visually, fitting community for me, which was Boca at the time. Boca was like the biggest kind of South LA, at least it felt like that to me, type of living community. It was a really nice living community, and I had a home there for a while. But I always thought it would be better with role play of some sort, which wasn't really super abundant there. So I couldn't really find that perfect visual element to a role play community that I liked that also had the role play. At the time, I think Crackden was one of the bigger role play communities. There are a few more niche role play communities, but as far as either family role play or urban role play, they seem to be very two extremes as well. And I just always had the idea in mind that it would be nice if there was a community where you could do both, which I think is more realistic for what an urban or city community that role plays should be. You can't have police that have nothing to do without crime. And you can't really, or you can have these crime sims, which it was the more popular RP choice at the time. If it wasn't family RP, it was like heavily criminal sims. But I like the contrast there too of, you're a criminal, but it's nice to have something to work up towards. And, it's nice to have just different environments, different visual environments to do the same type of role play, honestly. And that just didn't exist. So I thought, if it doesn't exist, maybe there's a good opportunity here for me to create it. And then Luxe was kind of born.
Okay. I'm going to take you guys back, and you as well, Angel. So one of my favorite, and I've been to a lot of different RP sims, but one of my favorite happens to be Liberty City back in the day. And it didn't have a mix, sort of. And Angel will get into what Luxe LA contains, but in my personal opinion, from my perspective, Luxe LA has that lifestyle. If you want to join SL because you want to live a certain life that you cannot in real life, like for example, if you wanted to live in LA, Luxe has that environment, that aesthetic. There's a university here. There's the Compton sim, which is the criminal element. There is farming. People farm on here. There's just tons of stuff to do because you have a really integrated HUD as well. That allows you to have different jobs, and you can level up because you have Life RP, which kind of works very similar to my story. So you cook, you clean, you have all these amazing things going on here. So my question to you is, Liberty City, I think, is also one of your favorite RP sims. I don't want to put words in your mouth. How does Luxe LA differ from that? And let's talk about the positives there and maybe what you saw at Liberty City versus what you were able to create here.
Well, I definitely, I think you hit it on the nail there. Like, Liberty City was definitely one of my favorite, or hands down my favorite urban criminal roleplay sim that, has came to Second Life. I just really loved the fact that it was very heavily, integrated throughout the community with their role play system. So with the system, it kind of forced you to get out of the house. If you wanted to go cook drugs, you had to go to a certain location. You had to go around to get the ingredients. You had to go to the gym to work out. So it made the community have value, with having different spaces to visit. And when you would visit those spaces, you'd run into people. It forced socialization, which I think a lot of the current role play systems, besides the one I'm working on and scripting, kind of lost that aspect. It is nice, of course, to be able to take your role play anywhere with you, like a BU, like a My Story. It's nice to be able to have it in your home on a plat if you want to. But if that's all, if there's no reason or no requirement for you to complete any of your objectives, you gave me that word earlier, that's the perfect word, for you to complete any of your role play objectives, you're very easily going to end up contained within your own bubble, which is the opposite of what I wanted my role play system to be. I wanted my role play system to be where that meets what Liberty City's role play system had, which is having all the ability to do a lot of the role play on your own, but still needing that element of community, still needing to get out and go to certain places and experience, certain environments in order to complete certain objectives, or complete a lot more objectives. And I feel like that's where, at least where Luxe and where the Life RP system differentiates from like other role play systems. But as far as Liberty City, funny enough, that was one of the first people I reached out to, the owner, to collab with, because that's when I had that idea. I was like, I love Liberty City, but I would love for there to be another type of environment visually here. I would love to be able to live in a nice house but still drive down to, the criminal sims when I wanted to have that type of role play. And he was at the time at least open to the idea, but I guess, whatever Liberty had going on with their closing, it didn't pan out. But I would say that it is a nice mix, I think, between what a family RP sim is traditionally and like Liberty City. That's what I think of Luxe.
That's definitely fair. And I think you bring up a good point, is because a lot of people end up saying, we often call SL a open platform or a sandbox, right? It's a big old sandbox, a metaverse. You could create whatever you want, but that can be a con in itself. That's a pro because your creativity and imagination can run wild, but it's also a con because if there is no objective, you kind of feel a little bit lost and you are just floating out in the ether somewhere. And I think that RP Sims definitely do ground you in a way, and it gives you something to look forward to, something to do on a day-to-day basis, people that you'd have to connect with or have the opportunity to meet, to, in your case, combat the loneliness that you were feeling when you moved into a new city. So what did you start with? Did you start with half a sim, a full sim, a quarter sim? How did that start, and how were you able to grow over time?
I started really, really small. Actually, I started with a quarter sim. It was just a parcel. And we had like 4 small rentals and 2 houses, and we had those like 4 little shops on the boardwalk. And that's all we started with. And every time I'd have profit and I'd be able to pay the sim up, I would reinvest and try to expand. Then we got the half sim attached, then we had that full sim. And then we stuck with the full sim, I would say, until 2020, when COVID hit and a lot of people came either back to Second Life or new to Second Life because everyone was home. That's when we really, really expanded. And even then, we've reduced about 2 sims since, at our peak. But now we have the 7 full sims and Homestead Regen left. All that from the little tiny parcel corner. So it's been a slow growth, but yeah, I'm really happy with how far we came. For our community, we've lasted pretty long.
I think so. And this may be an unpopular opinion, but it's mine. I feel like RP Sims or even Sims that hold clubs, it's kind of one of the hardest SL businesses to have because it's so reliant on renters who kind of cycle in and out, some infrequently, some very frequently. So it's hard to kind of determine what you're going to make at the end of the week or the end of the month in order to figure out like how much you're going to reinvest. So how were you able to sustain your renters and that's assuming that you're making the bulk of your money through your renters in order to expand.
Yeah, everything that was made profit wise was definitely made through rentals. I didn't have any other type of income source for the sim, and I just started having, an income source for these systems. So, yeah, everything's been through rentals, and we've always done pretty well. I've always been very cautious when expanding, making sure sims were paid up 3 months and we had enough saved to make the expansion first. But I think a lot of reasons why I was able to expand versus maybe some other communities is I reinvested a lot. I didn't take out pretty much anything. So a lot of this was done for a very long time out of just passion when we did those expansions. Only time I really even took anything out for myself was when we were done expanding and there was, a little bit more extra profit than I was used to at that point. My whole goal with expanding too was not just to get as big as possible and get as much renters as possible. My whole goal with expanding is what do we need now left to complete the role play foundation? I really wanted a school. I really wanted that urban side, so Compton. I really wanted a full hospital, fire department, police department, all those things that I thought were going to be really crucial to the role play, but also just really great backdrops for role play in great neighborhoods. Like we have Chinatown, we have Malibu, we have, Rodeo Drive. We have the Hollywood sign, which started as a backdrop to separate the Sims, and now it's a full, walkable, landmark pretty much. So once I got what I felt was, okay, we have all of the places we need for a foundation for role play, that's when I stopped expanding.
Okay, that makes sense. So your expansion was kind of more based on how do I fully flesh out this environment so it's exactly what I imagine. It feels as realistic as possible for the state of California. Well, a portion of the state of California's
Yeah.
right?
As much as we could, with the confines of SL, size of the Sims. There's no way to do anything to scale here. You got to kind of minimize it and do the essence of it. But yeah, it felt like that's when I finally felt like, okay, this feels like an LA Hollywood themed role play sim.
Okay. And how did you get your renters?
I would say that's probably the biggest advantage that Luxe has had over other communities. Was I put a lot into marketing, not just inside SL, but also outside. I reached out to creators to see if they were kind enough to trade, a home for some promotion, and they were. You never know until you ask. So I tell people, don't be afraid to reach out and see who's willing to, help you out. And those promotional videos on YouTube still to this day get views and get people to come in. A lot of people tell me this is one of the first places they visited because they saw something on YouTube with it when they were just starting out on Second Life. So that marketing on YouTube, just like this podcast you have me doing here, is extremely valuable. I would say one of the most valuable tools for getting renters. It's the keeping renters that's the other challenge, the harder challenge, I think.
Yeah, especially in this economy, right? Because when I see, like, for example, event organizers promoting in conferences their events, I've literally seen people respond, I have to choose between paying my SL rent or shopping, or I have to pay my real life rent, so can't even rent an SL, let alone shop. So, how have you been able to navigate this challenge currently with the.
Well, um, I don't know. I think that's a challenge I'm still navigating, to be honest, because we're gonna fluctuate with the real life market and the real life economy. So if the real life economy is up or down, it's gonna reflect in SL no matter what type of business you have. Um, at the end of the day, SL is a fun thing. You know what I mean? Like, this is extra money that people are spending for entertainment. So whenever you have to make cuts in real life due to finances, entertainment's always the first thing to go. Um, so it's always gonna depend, honestly, on how the economy's doing. And what the economy's doing. Like, everybody saw a big boom in 2020, even before, like, those stimulus checks and all that went out, just simply because people were home more. People
Right.
were home and needed something to do, so they sacrificed a little bit here to put a little bit money, put a little bit more money into their at-home fund. But again, that's going to depend on, real life and the economy. And right now, I feel like, even with everybody feeling the pinch of inflation in America, I mean, 50% or over 50% of Second Life's user base is Americans. And we're feeling the pinch of inflation pretty badly. So I think that is reflecting, and not just my rentals, but, other people's rentals, other people's sales, that that type of thing. And I just kind of have to navigate it as I go. Keep reassessing the market, keep reassessing business wise if it's still smart, to do this or that. Unfortunately, no matter how much passion and love I have for the community and Second Life, at the end of the day, it's still a very, very expensive business with a lot of overhead. So I have to kind of look at everything and make smart financial decisions as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, speaking of the overhead, that is something I wanted to touch on, right? So, in terms of decorators and landscapers, first of all, I know that you're a phenomenal decorator. In terms of landscaping, I don't know how strong you feel about yourself as a landscaper, but that
I'm all
is,
right.
you're all right. I think you're pretty good, but that's a pretty penny right there. And what makes it so expensive is that we don't have as many decorators in landscape. We have a lot of decorators, but I would say more landscapers in SL, especially for fully fleshed out Sims. So my question is, do you think it's necessary for someone wanting to open a Sim, regardless of size, to hire a decorator?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think it's just going to depend on the person and the project. Me personally, I've hired twice. I've hired out, well, I'll consider 2.5 times. I hired one time just for someone to do the roads, and I was going to landscape everything else. And then two of the Sims, particularly the Bel Air in Chinatown and the Malibu Sim, were completely hired out landscapers, because at that time I was completely burnt out. Not only does it take a lot of money to landscape yourself, because you do still have to, if you're not paying 150K to a landscaper, you're going to pay the 150K into resources and tools to make the landscape. So rocks, every blade of grass, every tree, every bush, that's all an asset that has to come out of your inventory that you have to purchase. So those assets do add up very, very quickly. You might not realize it, but probably significantly more than just hiring someone. But on the flip side, if you're going to be a bigger community, if you're going to want to stick around a long time, so there's going to be the potential where you have to move things or you have to update things, hiring someone definitely makes that a lot more difficult. Makes it extremely more difficult, versus when you build yourself, you have a lot more flexibility to change things when you want to or when you need to. For example, with this PBR update, You know, if I wanted all of those beaches and things that someone else put down to be updated, now I have to pay them again and, you know, wait till they're available for them to do that. Versus if I had done it myself, which most of the other Sims, thankfully, I have, I could do it myself. So, you know, there's pros and cons to both. I would say, though, if I were to come back and do it again, there is a high chance that even though I could, and even though I've already invested so much into having the tools to landscape myself, I'd still hire out, just simply because the time saved, and the brain power saved for me is worth it. Sometimes landscaping can be time consuming. It can be kind of stressful, especially if your creative juices aren't flowing. It's not as easy as just putting something down. It does take some practice, and I would say I'm not the most time efficient landscaper. I put a lot of thought into it, maybe overthink it when I landscape. So it would take me significantly longer than hiring someone out who could probably do it in a week or two. And it'd be fine enough for me to, you know, I can tweak it myself. I would say at the very least, if you do hire out, learn to kind of fix some things yourself so you don't have to keep paying people to do like minor changes. But overall, I don't see anything wrong with either way.
Okay, so just to recap, guys, so some of the things that Angel basically said to us is that if you wanted to start your own RP community, you know, outside of the benefits, which is you're going to be meeting tons of people, hopefully forming friendships in SL that keeps you tied to this game or social platform, however you want to describe it, is that you just want to have reserve funds. You want to have about 3 months in reserve to ensure that you can sustain your sim while you grow it, because obviously you have to market. You're not going to have renters overnight, especially if how do you feel about, especially if no one knows you? But I will segue into the next question after that. Decorators, it's a matter of choice, right? Because there's pros and cons to each. It does save time, it does save energy, and if you kind of aren't skilled at artfully arranging and blending things and creating the environment that you want, you could literally waste 4 weeks and pay a month's worth of tier and not make anything. So that's just something to think about. Just segueing into that, do you think that there needs to be a level of popularity with the person who's opening the role play sim? Because I just think of like the SL families that are well known. Like I would assume that it would be easier for a person within a certain family to start an RP sim, get traffic almost immediately off the bat, maybe renters, than just a person who's been just platforming for 2 years.
Well, I think like any marketing, it helps, right? I mean, anybody with influence is going to help influence people to buy or, you know, be interested in whatever you're selling or showing. But I think that harps back to what I was saying originally. Like it's sometimes it's easy to get people. It might be harder for some and easier for others, but getting people is less than half the battle. It's keeping people here. I know somebody who specifically, I'm not going to say any names. I'm sure people remember in SL history here, but someone specifically opened up a competing university about a couple months after I opened mine, and I lost a big chunk of our student base to go over there right in the middle of the semester starting. So only like a month and a half, 2 months after we had our orientation week, pretty fresh. They didn't even finish their first semester. But they were already ready to go to some other place because the person running it was popular and a part of a popular family. Well, they didn't even last through a semester before they were gone. You know, you can have popularity and you can attract people, but what's going to keep them there? You know, is the role play going to be good? Is the process is going to be good? Is it going to be affordable? You know, are you going to be able to keep that activity and keep that energy? I think that's the much harder part. So I think people, if you're new coming in, I wouldn't let that ever deter you from doing anything. Feeling like you don't have anybody, you know, to help influence people to come over to your side, or feeling like other people have more influence. Because honestly, a lot of people in Second Life, they will try to be loyal to their family, clique, friend, whatever. But if you offer something that's truly fun and truly unique, it'll attract people to you no matter what, especially if it's unique. So I don't think that's too much of a issue.
Okay.
Personally, I don't think I was very well known either when I opened up. I probably had more popularity outside of Second Life than I did in SL. A lot of people didn't even know my real life, content creating or whatnot was anywhere tied to this. But I did go out, like I said, and ask other creators who did more content kind of suited for Second Life to help me promote. So you could always reach out to those people too, and you never know who's going to help you, market and perform.
So outside of YouTube channels, I would say Rodeo Drive, you had some creators open stores on Rodeo Drive. Obviously, they would promote that in their groups, which helped draw traffic here. So that was one of the things that you did. Did you like spam any groups or use something I was told about recently from a friend was that there are actually people who promote like Sims and even products on Facebook and Instagram for like 1,000 lindens a week. Did you ever utilize any of those services?
No, I didn't. I've always done my own promoting and marketing and stuff. Honestly, I feel like SL, especially with a roleplay community, the profit margins are a lot harder to reach. And like I said, the overhead's so high that the profits really aren't what you would think they are for a community. So anything where I could save money and do it myself, I was more apt to do it, unless it was going to save me in a significant amount of time. Things like marketing and stuff, especially on social media, I think people can do it themselves more than they think. It just takes kind of building up your platform there. So, join Facebook and like other Second Life profiles, add friends, and then get a canva.com account. It's free. You can make pretty good flyers, pretty professional looking advertisements, really easy and quick, and just do it yourself. I would just say for me, because the community got so big and because I started focusing on other things like scripting, it became a little bit harder to keep up with that social media promotion. So I guess maybe it would be a value there. But another thing is, this is a business, like an actual business, so I have to put my IRS information and all that in here. Hiring people to do anything, sometimes it's okay a little bit here and there, but if I were to get like employees or anything, that opens up another complicated kind of side to running a business, even in SL, because now I have employees I have to claim, which I really wanted to avoid at all costs, because I do try to also claim my losses on my taxes. So honestly, a lot of either what's been done for the sim has been volunteer work, or it's been like in exchange for perks like free homes, free rent, like role play perks, that sort of thing. And then if I couldn't get anyone to volunteer, I did it myself. Honestly, the only thing I've really paid out the most for is maybe landscape a couple times, and scripting help quite a few times. So.
Which makes sense. I mean, we're not masters of everything, so delegation is absolutely necessary to be efficient. But let's talk about the overhead a little bit, because a lot of people think like once I get the place, my land decorated, landscaped, I laid down my houses, I've promoted, all I have to do is make sure I could pay my tier. So what other overhead costs are there?
It's going to depend on, right? Are you landscaping and decorating yourself like I was? So that was another really big overhead. But even if you don't, and it's all ready to go for you, as soon as you have your community built, just the tier alone is really large. It's a really large overhead for the amount of profit you get. If you compare it to like other businesses, the profit margins would be like 20-30% here. You don't really get that much more for just even paying your tier. Tier's expensive. It's on average about $250 a month per sim. It's a lot of money, more than my real life rent for the total of these 7.5 sims. So
Wow.
that alone is just, the tier overhead is way too much, and I blame that mostly on Second Life. They haven't figured out how to make it, to me personally, in my opinion, a sustainable cost for land ownership, because I feel like land ownership is so important for building environments that keep the user base here for longer periods of time. If there's not much things for us to actually do besides shop, it's going to be hard to keep people here for the long term. You're going to get bored very easily. You're going to want to go play something else, and then you're losing the other value of SL, which is the people. There's less and less new people to meet if we're not attracting people to come here and then giving them something to do while they're here. And then that's not to say that there aren't still locations out there that are fun and enjoyable and not just a store. But at the same time, those locations come and go so fast, because who's paying $250 a month for just simply for the intention of someone else's, a stranger's enjoyment? It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. If it does, it doesn't happen for very long. It's just too expensive for people to really just invest in the enjoyment aspect of Second Life. And I feel like that's a con to Second Life in itself.
I think that's a really good point. So I think about some of my favorite things I like to do outside of like playing greedy at Versino or going to, Get Rich Gaming. Those places may stick around long because they're making money from me and others like me who enjoy that. But I also like to bowl, and I like to go to carnivals, and I love like Mad P's Escape Room. That's a different situation because that's a whole business or corporation, I would say. But how long will a bowling sim be open, or a theme park, or something, a golfing sim, something along those lines? Because it's not even bringing in income via rentals like, say, a RP sim. So I think that's a really good point, which is that in order to keep people engaged, in order to keep people in Second Life for longer hours and months and years and so on and so forth, like, we really need to consider that we need this land to be affordable, so we give people more options. Yeah, well said, Angel. So to me, though, in terms of the overhead, it seems pretty manageable if you are like, now that people have this information that you just gave us, if you save for 3 months in advance for your tier, you have a marketing strategy and you give yourself that buffer, a month, 2 months, in order to promote. And you also save for your landscaping and any potential, like, you could just interview landscapers, get some prices. I would think that this is pretty doable, correct? Or is it
I absolutely think, I think it's doable. It's just, is it sustainable? That's what I don't know if this is the most sustainable business in Second Life. If I was coming into Second Life strictly for the goal of making money, right? Like, I'm not here for the passion of it, nothing about it. A community would be the last thing I would do, because the overhead to the profit is just not, it's not enough for the amount of time and energy and everything that you kind of have to put into it. I didn't talk about customer service because there's no cost to that if I'm not paying employees, but there's still got to be somebody here to do customer service too, which expends energy and time. The amount of money that you're going to get back, unless you have a large amount of sims, which I don't even have, I don't think it's going to be worth it, especially coming in. And I think having this many sims and more is something that's very difficult, or else there'd be a lot more communities that did, and there's very few, under 10 that I can think of, that have this many sims as a or more as a living community. And then a lot of those have partners. If you're coming in by yourself, it's going to be a lot different than you coming in with someone else to split the costs with. A lot of those sims are partners or companies. they or have investors. You're coming in by yourself. I just wouldn't consider this my first choice. I would say do a community and a role play community if there's some type of role play that you're really passionate about and you don't think it's offered. And you think, oh, I'm going to bring a new experience. I think that's the benefit of creating a role play community. I'm not saying that there's no profit whatsoever, but getting to that profit would require multiple sims, and it would require keeping it full, maintaining it with the same amount of renters or more. For us to have like really good profits, I need to be at least 80% full. Right now, to put in perspective, we're like 30% full. So, it's very, very difficult. There's been times where we've been 100% full, right? Like that's when I was reinvesting back into it. But we weren't always making that much profit. It took a few sims to even get to that profit, like that much. It took a few sims to get to a profit that was consistent like that much. But it took that first sim almost 2 years with one full sim before we got the second one. So I don't think it's realistic to come in rushing into it and think in 3 to 6 months I'll have a part-time job or full-time job money. I just don't think with a community that's realistic. From my personal experience, saying that as somebody who's stuck around for as long as we have, I would say things like vacation sims are really great investment. That's kind of like a nice middle in between, a community and something, more short-lived. Because when the hype dies down, when you lose renters, it's very easy to let go of a vacation sim and come back to it. And you can also charge more for the rentals compared to what people expect the rental market to be for long-term rentals. So you could pay $5,000 for a 1-night, 2-night stay in a vacation sim versus that $5,000 you would be expecting a mansion for a week in a living community. And for you in your profits, you're obviously going to want that $5,000 in 2 days over $5,000 in a week. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Yeah, 100%. So one thing that I do notice is that I feel like the businesses are not utilized enough on Sims, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. So on Max Sim, right, on 100 Block, it's different for him because he actually creates, right? So I noticed that the weed shop makes a significant amount of money, right? The tattoo shop, not so much. Even the clothing shop makes money. Do you think it would be helpful if people kind of optimize the businesses on their land? Because I know at times they rent it to other residents who might stay for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because they think that you're going to bring the traffic to their store and it doesn't require much promotion. And you're super creative and you have tons of products as it relates to Life RP. How does having a business on a role play sim assist with the profit margins?
I think it would definitely assist. Absolutely. I would say stores are unfortunately or fortunately the most profitable with the less or the least overhead possible, because you have a product, you make it once, you can sell it indefinitely, you can sell unlimited copies. You could put it in a small store. You could utilize a small rental space and make a lot of money selling products, especially if you utilize Marketplace. You could put your older things on Marketplace and have your small store updated with the newer things and redirect them. My thing is, though, how much time do you have in the day, to start? You're going to manage a community, build a community, and then on top of it, you're going to manage and build a store or multiple stores with items. It becomes very difficult to manage that much, to even put out that much. You would have to, I think personally, you would have to either pick, to focus on something, or I just don't see how you could do both running a huge place like this. I don't know. I mean, it's also going to depend on the help you have, the team you have, if you're hiring out. I know a lot of meshers, even some of the bigger companies and bigger meshers and creators that you think of, They have help. They hire out. They have people making the items for them and scripting the items for them. So if that was the case, depending on how much money and resources you have to put in, I think, yeah, of course, any additional revenue opportunity is going to be beneficial. But for me personally, even just trying to balance scripting and managing the sim has been really challenging, especially during those times when our admin team fluctuates. I might have like 5 or even 10 admin at one point, and then it might just be 1 or 2 of us. So I kind of have to also account, like, how much is my time worth here? Is the amount I might get from making more items to sell in one of my stores worth putting a significant amount of more time or more investment into? Do I even have the investment? I really was very adamant when I first started this. I didn't want to upload anything. I wanted to just make what I made, and then if I had extra, I wanted to reinvest that. I didn't want to have to put any money out of pocket into it. So it's also going to depend on what you are willing to spend to make money, honestly.
Yeah. Pure speculation. I don't know this for a fact, but I think that's the Plug's business model, right? I would think, because like you said, I would assume that all RP Sims might have taken a hit during the economy. That would be a reasonable assumption. But I would think some place like the Plug, where there's this booming drug business, it kind of helps them stay profitable, because that's another long running RP sim. I don't think that a lot of RP sims last that long. Even ones that I started with when I first started SL were around for, if 6 months, that was lucky, right? A year was lucky. I think that's a huge accomplishment. It's interesting that you're saying this for as of someone who's been around for 6 years, but that leads me to this question. Is it worth getting more than one sim, like 2 sims, 3 sims, 4 sims, 5, 6, whatever the amount is? Because a lot of times when we visit sims, people are all concentrated in one area.
I would say it's going to depend on what your objective goal is for your role play, right? Like if you're doing a sci-fi community, or you're doing like a Star Wars theme or Avatar theme, it's very reasonable to think that you could make the money that you need to, plus profit, with smaller rentals and fit what you need to on one sim. I think if you can, you should absolutely always look into how can I make the most with the least, especially with how expensive tier is for a sim, honestly. I think where I really wanted to expand and why we have as many sims as we do is because people wanted that luxury feeling of having a mansion, but you gotta remember how much land space that big house takes up. So I would have to, every time we would do an expansion, I would get out my handy dandy calculator, and I would calculate, okay, how many prims do I need to allot to these homes? I'd have what are called, I'd have footprints for each house, lay it out and say, okay, how much can I charge for this? How much do I need to make a profit? What else can I put here? And then I would do it that way. If we didn't have a sim where it was focused on, or a community where we had so much focus on like the actual luxury feel and luxury role play, we wouldn't need such big houses, and we probably could utilize the space a lot better as far as financially it goes. But it's kind of difficult to have Hollywood role play and there's like, tiny little homes. I don't think it was going to give the feel that everybody wanted. So that's the main reason why I think we needed this many sims. And even with this many sims, I feel like compared to what a lot of other bigger communities, consisted of, I think we're still relatively a medium size, not a huge community. But even with 7 sims, it feels like a lot because the overhead is, because it's so expensive. But if you can do whatever your role play, environment focus is in a smaller package, absolutely do it. Try to save your money as much as possible, because that's the biggest reason why a lot of these role play communities don't last is, when it's full, it's great, but you got to account for those times when it's not full. Are you going to be able to sustain through it without having to get rid of Sims?
Okay, so there are some unique challenges to having a luxury RP sim, like the size of the houses, the amount of prims that need to be allocated towards that. So that could totally make sense to me. And then some things you just have for aesthetic, like you may not even be making money from it. Like I would assume like the Hollywood Walk of Fame or something similar to that. So
I would say very few, though, for me personally, because I'm always, I am passionate about it, but I'm always still focused on like, okay, like this is a business. How am I going to run it like a business? Very few of our public spaces are not utilized as a rental in some way. Definitely the Hollywood Walk is one of them, but that barely took up space in it. It was mostly to begin with just a divider for lag purposes. So I kind of just maneuvered it just a little bit. And then I would say like the Hollywood studios, they're not rentable, but most of the other even public locations, have rentals in them some way. I tried to make as much profit potential as possible. Now, if people use them and stick with them, that's another story. Like you said, I think people don't utilize the businesses as much as they could, and I think it would be a great idea if they did. For example, our hospital, if you're someone just getting into medical role play and you don't want to immediately go rent, a parcel and open up a whole entire medical center, you could easily just come and be an independent contractor at our hospital. You'd pay like 150 linden, a week, and be able to utilize a huge hospital with all the equipment you need. You don't have to buy, you know what I mean? You have a network of people to pull from. You save money, and you could charge the same amount you would if you did have all that overhead. So there's like a lot of business opportunities even for individuals here that unfortunately doesn't get utilized as much as I would like. But hopefully maybe that'll change around.
that's actually really smart, Angel. I never thought about that. That's such a great idea because there are so many clinics that handle like pregnancy process or just BU doctors and all type of other role play doctors, or even role play, for example, divorce attorneys, role play therapists. Like that would be a great idea for them to have an office within a hospital, like a place to operate their business. I feel like most people do this on their plat, but like we're here to socialize, we're here to mix and mingle. So that, I think that's a phenomenal idea. And just to have a mix of medical facilities or like just different doctors in one medical building would be pretty awesome. I think that's a great idea. And in terms of the studio, like think about this, like I know you said that right now is not monetizable, but there are so many people, especially on YouTube, who have podcasts. I think that for aspiring podcasters, if they wanted to rent a space, because you know me, like I don't even have a podcast studio. So I sometimes use your space here, or I might use my friend Sky's. But if I had the opportunity to rent a podcast space, I would 100% do it. And I would put out a lot more interviews and podcasts on my YouTube channel.
Well, I will look into that. Thank you for that idea. You might see a rental box pop up around here.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I feel like the businesses need to definitely, not just on your sim or anyone in particular sim, but they need to be optimized just to increase revenue. So what would you say is needed for, I know it's different based on your footprint, your builds, your prims and all that other stuff. For Luxe LA, like what percentage rented would you need to be at just to be break even?
At break even, we need to be at about 40%.
That, and again, to me, that sounds like doable, right? But it's, of course, it's harder said than done. Like you're not too far away from that now. Like it's,
no, I'm not too far away from it now, but this is the first time in the past 6 to 8 months that I've ever been under that. So we've always been at least break even. I've never had to upload personal money until the past year, honestly. And that's how I built it too. I built it so in the times where there was always slow times in SL, right? That's just inevitable. Summer comes around, people are out more out of the house, or vacation times like around Christmas. So you do have to account for that too. There are going to be times, no matter how popular you are, that it's going to be slower than others. But this slowdown is definitely, I feel like, something of an outside force, probably the economy and inflation and everybody budgeting that we've been this low. But even this low, we're still bringing in 100K a week. So there's still a demand for people to have community spaces. Is that demand going to be enough to sustain it with the high amount of tier?
Okay. So we talked about some of the challenges that are involved with having a role play sim and some things you need to think about before opening one. Can we talk about some of your highs? Like, what are some of the most rewarding experiences you've had as a governor in Luxe LA, or just like owner operator?
I would say the highs always come when we have active role play that people are like truly enjoying. Like, you can tell when people are having fun, they're excited for like the next sim-wide storyline or for the next RP scene, people getting excited to sue the government, or like talking about doing protests and like just seeing the activity and seeing people have fun, because that's originally what I came in wanting. I came in doing was having fun role playing. So seeing people enjoy what I meant to create for them, that's definitely always the high. And of course that comes and goes with how full we are, or what exactly we're doing with the role play, which we've adapted and we've changed over the years as well. We're doing it now, we're having a little bit of a revamp compared to what we've done before. We're shifting as far as like the role play structure, a little bit more inspired by 5M, as far as like how the law is going to be processed and how police is going to be processed. So the role play is going to be even more in depth than what it was. But that's the exciting part for me, like just seeing the role play flourish and seeing people get excited about it and having fun. That's always like the rewarding moment where I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right.
Yeah. When I lived here, I had so much fun. Like, I enjoyed the Purge event. That was amazing. There were a lot of, I felt like when I was here too, like there was an event like almost every week, whether it's at the strip club, the local bar, and then you're just running into the doctor from the hospital and people who own the various businesses and various residents. It was a lot of fun. It was super engaging. And your team was amazing, especially on Discord, super responsive as well. So that was great. And I'm not just saying that because we're friends, but that's like my honest review. Like, so.
Thank you.
What are you proud of, like, over the past 6 years, of all the things you've done on Luxe LA? Like, what makes you the proudest of your personal accomplishments outside
well, I love the visual evolution that it's had. Just remembering how we started on that tiny parcel and all the things we used to talk about, like, ooh, I would love to have like a billionaires row where all the rich people live in these high towers and, they have this schwanky like club, and we made it. And then, I would love to have movie studios. There was one time before we got the complete full sim where I tried to squeeze one of these studios into it, because I was like, we can't be Hollywood without Hollywood studios, and it just wasn't working. But to finally like see that and be like, well, now we need Rodeo Drive so we can be, schwanky walking down Rodeo Drive shopping for luxury items. Like, seeing all those things actually visualize and come to fruition, I think I was really proud of and excited when it finally all came together. But also, I'm just really proud we lasted this long, to be honest, because you don't play SL for 15 years without seeing some of your favorite places go, and it always breaks my heart. Like, damn, like Oh, I love that place. It was so fun. It was so nice, to look at, great to take pictures, and it's just gone, just like that, Places in real life just don't disappear like that. But whenever your favorite business shuts down in real life, it's always a big deal too. So I'm definitely proud we've came this far. I'm really just thankful for everybody who supported me for this long. Definitely my team, who's put in time because they have the same passion for it as me. They just wanted to see it flourish. So I'm really proud to say that Luxe is one of the top communities in SL currently. So that's a big accomplishment in my eyes.
I think so too. I think you should be really proud of that. I feel like SL time is hyper speed, right? And 6 years is extremely long for an SL business, and it just shows like your level of commitment, your discipline, because you have to show up for this every day whether you feel like it or not. So yeah, you should definitely pat yourself on the back for that. How much time are you dedicating to this on a weekly basis?
I would say a lot more now that I'm scripting. Before, when I wasn't scripting, the time was a lot more manageable, I will say, because all I had to do was really the customer service part. After everything was built, it was just customer service, and then organizing events, trying to keep it active, and organizing the role play. But with scripting, it's kind of taking it to a whole nother level of commitment. Some days I don't even I don't even know if how I have it in me, honestly. Scripting has been the most difficult challenge of this whole operation, for sure. But I'm hoping that I'm getting close to at least a point where I'll have a product that's finished enough that we'll get enough people engaged in it and purchasing the other items for it, that I can take that money and reinvest back into more scripting help, and spend less time, for sure. I think the goal for most, but definitely the goal for me is not working harder, but working smarter. So how can I optimize this? How can I automate this? And how can I buy back more of my time so that I can, do other business ventures or just enjoy what I created more. I would like to role play actually on the sim. That was the whole point. This was supposed to be my ideal role play environment where I would have the most fun at. And I hope that enough people would agree with me that this was something that we needed as far as a role play community. But I want to enjoy it too. So I'm hoping that the time commitment kind of reduces a bit. But I would say I probably put in, on average, I probably put in at least 6 hours a day, 6 to 8 hours a day, like a full-time job right now. Before the scripting, I would say I put in about 3 to 4 hours a day, which is not too bad, considering the profits that we had then.
Right. Okay, so I feel like we're just assuming the viewers know what you're scripting. So Luxe LA is always growing, always evolving. And so with this evolution comes Life RP. Can you tell the viewers about this?
Well, we've tried a few roleplay systems over the years. We've tried Nexus, we tried Zeolife. I did reach out to BU at one point, and they were very adamant about not really working with me as a creator here and helping me script a community. So I tried to find every other solution that would give us that the same type of roleplay system that Liberty City had, that I love so much, that a lot of people love so much, but still have it scripted to whereas it would work still for the people who enjoyed the more family roleplay aspect of like BU or like now My Story. When we first started, My Story hadn't came out yet, so it was just Zeolife. And the big problem with Zeolife for me was not only the difficulty of scripting it into things, because you can't drag copy, right? So if I got 100 chairs in auditorium I'm trying to script, I gotta do every individual one. That was a big hindrance and what took so long for me to put Zeolife into places. But the other thing was just all the restrictions, right? Like I didn't have a weapon system for Zeolife. There was weapon systems, but then they didn't have the cooking and they didn't have the farming. And it got to a point where I was buying all these systems and spending all this money on this stuff, and it still wasn't giving us the full rounded role play that I wanted. So I bit the bullet and said, let's just look into these scripts. Like, let's see exactly how difficult it would be for me to get a custom system and try to tweak it for us. And then once I got the scripts, thinking at first that it'd be just an easy tweak here and there. Oh no. No, it took a lot of figuring out. It took a lot of, at first I was hiring scripters to tweak this here and there, but I ended up spending way more money hiring people to script things than I had, in the budget for hiring people. I underestimated how much it would either cost or how much it would take to actually script a system, even with base scripts that were purchased off a marketplace. Just customizing it for the sim, I really underestimated how difficult it would be, and that kind of started me on a journey to learn on my own. And I would say it took me about a year to finally get a breakthrough where I thought, oh, okay, now this actually makes sense. Now I can see how I can use this to not only get the things that I want, but now that I understand a little bit more of how the scripting works, I had all these additional ideas like, oh, wow, now this would be great to add. Now this would be great. And I know how to add it. And that kind of took it to where when we first started, this is before my story, it was called Luxe Life because it was sim specific. I was making it specifically for this community. And then I would say like a year and a half into that, like I said, once I had that breakthrough, I was like, oh, well, this would be great for everyone to have. Like this would be something that would be beneficial to a lot of communities, and they could make it, their own or use it in their own way for their own specific environment. It doesn't have to be just for our Hollywood role play. And that's when we rebranded it from Luxe Life to Life RP, and started selling it as its own system, separate but also very much intertwined and connected to Luxe LA. So that is what I'm currently scripting.
Okay, cool. I want to pause you right there. So I am a person who is thinking of opening up my own sim, and I think a HUD would be beneficial, and I decide to invest in Life RP. What am I getting?
Well, we haven't quite opened it up yet to sim partners and affiliates. I want to make sure it's implemented here first, and we do all the field testing and whatnot. But in the future, you'll be getting exactly what you would like for your sim and for your specific role play. So if you, for example, you want a strictly family RP sim, you don't want the guns and you don't want the police tools with the arrests and the warrant system, you don't have to use or utilize that. You could specifically just ask for, just the base level game and things that specifically integrate into the rest of the community. That'll be, for example, the grocery store or the hardware store where you buy your farming tools and things like that. So you would be basically purchasing your own sim-specific, community-specific vendor location for those items that would integrate into the HUD. And in the future, a lot of the roles and the skills will be integrated or able to be integrated into multiple locations. For example, we're going to have the music skill. So you'll be able to level up your music skills, similar to Sims. Whenever you want a Sim to have a specific attribute or talent, you continue to have them interact with that item in order to level up that skill. It's going to work exactly the same way. You'd be able to say, well, I want that music skill. I want the art skill. I want, science here and there. And whatever you specifically request is going to be what your sim package is going to be implemented into. And I'm also going to be offering for my sim partners an affiliate vendors. So potentially you can make whatever you invest in those specific pieces of the role play being installed into your sim. You'll also be able to make a little kickback from any type of Linden sales you have through your affiliate vendors for items that work with the life system. So I'm really excited to finally get there eventually, but we're a couple months away from that, from having the first sim affiliate. But those are the types of things. And also, just making the environment more interactive. So NPCs that you can sell things to. If it's not drugs, you'll be able to maybe sell certain plants or animals that you grow or farm raise. You know, you'll be able to sell them to an NPC farmer's market, for example, or scavenging. Instead of having to go to the store to find truffles or, you know, certain plants or salt rock. You know, you'll be able to go down to the beach, or you'll be able to go for a hike and pick these things. You know, just things that you can integrate into your sim to get your community outside of their house and outside of their bubble and actually exploring the community. Those will be the types of things that we offer partner affiliates.
That's really exciting. So, what does the Life RP HUD offer currently for Luxe LA RPers?
Well, what it offers currently is pretty much what it offers everyone in general. So if you could check out the Life store, and you can find it with lifesl.com, there's pretty much everything that similar systems like My Story and like Zeo Life offer. So there's farming, there's cooking already. There is growing with like gardening. So you can grow your own house plants, that type of thing. We have like 70 food choices. There's fishing. You can catch several different types of fish, from tuna to lobster to octopus. There's also a fishing net where you can catch clams. And I would say that definitely sets us apart a little bit from My Story. I love My Story system. We do use the same base code. We've just both kind of edited that code to fit our unique systems, but they do in some ways work together. Like, for example, the stats, like sleeping, you know, toilet stats, things like that. The food is compatible in some ways. So we have some compatibility there, and that's already offered with the system. But the new updates that are coming out, like the crime stuff, the drugs are going to be implemented very soon. So that's going to be very different. And that's going to be specific to Luxe to start, at least, just till we do like the field testing, make sure, you know, everything's fair with how the exchange is and the system is. Another big thing too is we have our own currency. The currency is called Luxe Coin. It'll always be called Luxe Coin, even though we did rebrand and open it up for Life RP. But the Luxe Coin's kind of like our crypto. So we have our own economy where you can come and you can get a job here. You can clock in and actually get paid for your time working at the different locations and different businesses. If you own a business, you can already have time clocks set up, so you have some type of RP currency already paid out to your employees. And that's something that's sim specific right now, but also that will be something offered to affiliates so that they can make their own locations actual employee locations and have them get paid. We do have the parking coming back soon, which will actually utilize two currencies. Our old currency that we used was Nexus. So we're going to bring those cards back, but just specifically as parking cards. So you'll be able to actually use your Luxe Coin to add money to your parking card, and then you'll use that for the parking meters again and the tolls. We are going to have paid taxi services. We actually do have that now. So if you do have the worker group, you can come apply for our general worker group. Those are the closed roles that pay out. And then you can just jump in a cab and make money every 10 minutes driving people around. We're going to have garbage rolls coming. We're going to have paid installation for your electricity and your water. So those are going to be some specific role play things coming soon, specifically to Luxe, and then eventually they'll be offered to others. But right now, they're coming very soon to our community.
Okay, sounds good. Just something I think you may have forgotten to mention, or maybe this has changed with the HUD updates. At least when I lived here, this relates to the criminal element. If you do commit a crime, there is a warrant system that you mentioned before, but that was currently active, and so depending on who sees like what range you're at, you could be at a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, which 4-star, 5, which, and the higher the stars requires you to come to the police station, clear your warrant, maybe even set a court date, go through the whole booking process, alerts the police officer to your location. Correct, Angel? I don't want to misspeak here.
Yeah, we still have that installed.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's installed. We just haven't had people utilizing it as much because there hasn't been a lot of crime to commit other than robbing the bank, which you guys can still do too. You can still rob the bank and jewelry store, and get dirty money and exchange it for clean money. But I'm hoping now that the drugs are going in, that we'll have a lot more people getting quote unquote caught. Right now, you kill someone, you automatically get 5 stars, but eventually the NPCs will randomly give 5 stars to you too. So if you're selling these drugs to make money to these NPCs, you never know when you're gonna get some criminal activity on your status. So that is already implemented, and hopefully we'll be able to utilize it a little bit more with the new DOJ we have and the lawyers, and get some more criminal/law role play going. But that's another reason why it's very important we fill these role play roles. We need policemen, we need lawyers, we need people who want to do these roles, these very important, critical roles to the role play, to come first, because otherwise, you commit a crime, you get 5 stars, who's going to get you out if we don't have any police or we don't have any lawyers?
Definitely fair. So if you're an RPer and you always wanted to be a cop, or you've always wanted to become a lawyer, like me in real life, I wish I went into law versus accounting. Come to Luxe LA and just immerse yourself in that type of role play. So let's talk about SL and the future of RP communities or communities in general. Do you have any thoughts?
You might have to be a little bit more specific to the future as far as like their success or what I think.
What are your thoughts on the future of Second Life as a community, number one, and how do you see the role of the virtual world evolving over the years, and make it specific to RP communities if you can? Is that too much?
No, I think I can answer. I think as far as Second Life goes, and this isn't just my thought, right? Like there's articles written specifically by people who analyze metaverses in general, especially since Facebook came out and announced they're working on their metaverse, renamed the whole company to Meta. That's how serious Zuckerberg is about it. There's a lot of companies right now that are quietly competing with Second Life and with Linden Labs to create basically what Second Life is, but optimized for virtual reality headsets and virtual reality tools. So where Second Life is going is it's going to have to compete with whatever they pop out in the future. And I'm talking like another 10, 15 years from now. Will they be able to sustain, and will they be able to continue to compete? I think so. I honestly, like, I want to be optimistic. I'm not currently happy with how they've been going in that direction. I think they leave much to be desired. What we already discussed, like the costs, right? The cost overhead, especially in a community that's mostly creator content, it's mostly made by users. I think they need to pull back a little bit on the cost that requires to create more experiences, and then also they need to put more and invest more, support more communities, roleplay communities specifically, because I do think that roleplay communities are a unique aspect of Second Life that offer the objectives, like you said, that gamifies it. A lot of people say, well, Second Life's not a game. Second Life's not a game. Of course, it's more than a game, but that doesn't mean that there's not aspects to it that feel like a game and play like a game. And those aspects do attract users not only to try it out, but to stick around longer. You know what I mean? I think gamifying it is actually pretty important in a lot of respects. And if they don't invest more into that, including the users that gamify it, Second Life itself is doing it with the revamp of Belisaria. That's their biggest Linden Lab community now. It's running like a community. They have a Discord. They have a group. They have events and community locations now. That wasn't a thing before. That was directly offered from Linden Labs. So even Linden Labs itself realizes the value in offering that, but I think they also need to turn back and say, okay, well, we still need to make sure that value is there and able to be offered by our users. And in order for users to offer it, we have to be able to afford it, because a lot of us are in it for the passion of it and because we want to enjoy these experiences ourselves, not necessarily the profit. But if we do have to take a step back and look at it and say, is this worth financially putting into, is the enjoyment of myself or others really worth all this money? A lot of people will eventually say no. And the more of those communities that die, the more of those just places we can visit that we just want to enjoy, like theme parks. Oh my gosh, I was so sad when the I don't want to say Disney, for they come for their nut, but like it was like a makeshift Disney World. It was around for years. I thought for sure the Lindens must be investing. I was like, it can't go anywhere because there's no way it was profitable. But that person held on to it for years and years and years because they loved, offering that experience. But even they had to eventually go. And we're going to see a lot more of that if SL doesn't kind of figure out a way that makes this type of business more sustainable for us. I don't know if another platform will come along and kind of give us SL in a better game engine or all the things we kind of wish we had in Second Life. I don't know. But I'm hoping that Second Life can stand the test of time. I think if they figure it out and they figure out the marketing aspect as well, like attracting more younger users, I think that Second Life can grow. But, it does make me nervous as far as where they are right now and how adamant other companies are about making the next metaverse. And a lot of those companies, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, they're all looking at Second Life as the original. Like, we are the OGs as far as the metaverse goes. Like, we have kind of cracked one of the codes about a sustainable metaverse. Like, the people who are here, we stick around for years. Even though we leave for a couple of years, we always come back to to recapture that magic, to see the same friends or meet new friends in the same way. So I think there's a lot of pros to Second Life, but I think we just kind of have to see. We just kind of have to see how technology evolves, and if Second Life keeps up with it and keeps up with people. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. So what I would say to that is, like, definitely SL is definitely the blueprint for sure, but I do see a struggle in increasing the user base. I don't know about maintaining the user base, because I see that people who come and hang around for a bit, they end up staying for a really long time. But I have friends that we both played with in 5M 4 years ago who recently joined Second Life, and they're floundering. They're just like, I don't know what to do. I just feel like I don't know who to talk to, where to go. The learning curve is kind of steep in terms of making your Avi and things like that, which is why I created videos back in the day helping people, get their Avi together. But the biggest complaint that I hear is just like, what is there to do? And that was from one of my friends recently.
Yeah, I never really felt that until recently. And it's crazy because when I joined 15, 16 years ago, like I joined in like 2019. I joined. No, 2009, sorry. 2009, 2010 I joined. And it just was so easy to meet people. Like, it was so easy to find something to do. Things would find me, you know, like people would be like, hey, have you checked out this? And I would just be standing around just random Sims. Oh my gosh, do they still have the freebie Sims they used to have? Remember those giant freebie warehouses?
Yeah, they do.
And you would just go grab stuff.
Like similar.
Yeah,
I think London City definitely has some stores with tons of freebies, and then, but I think to your point, it's like you have to know where to look for these things.
I didn't know. I just got here. You know what I mean? I didn't know where to go, what to do. It was just people. People were just so much more friendly and like would just message me out the blue, be like, hey, you know, are you new here? You need help? Like, have you checked this out? Like, hey, like, have you heard this is going? I would just get randomly. And it was just so easy. I don't know why it's so much more difficult now.
You're a woman as well. Like, when I first started Second Life, I remember just being in awe, like just looking at all the environments and the different Sims that people created. I was a little disappointed because a lot were empty, or maybe there was one or two people, like maybe it was the creator. But I would tell you, I received a lot of help. And I was also like, moved into some random person's house. They're like, you could come here. This is your house now.
Yeah, that was my first house. I got a little extra house, a little extra land. Okay.
Yeah, it's like,
no, the first person that reached out to me was a woman, and she was like,
I can tell it was a man for me.
Yeah. I was a Ruth. I was walking around, I was like, please, can you tell me how to not be ugly? And not only did she throw me some linden, but she just helped me like figure out where to go. And she was like, yeah, if you want to hang out, go to a club. The clubs were a big thing. It was clubs and role play. But once I got into role play, that made it exponentially so much easier to meet people.
That's true.
Role play really, really, really helped me just like find, and especially if you're role playing in the same place, you're going to have automatically people with the same interests. You know what I mean? And that just kind of pinballed into other areas of Second Life and other corners of Second Life.
Yeah.
But I do feel like now, even now, I've been on for so long, now it feels a little bit more difficult to connect with people and to meet people. And I think maybe too, it might be just a little bit more cliquey than it used to be. I think people find their cliques and they find their families, and then it's harder to break out and it's harder to like infiltrate that. I think a lot of people, well, this is objectively true, right? A lot more people now than they did before have more significant investments into the business side. So a lot of people are coming into Second Life even new now and starting stores and starting communities and starting businesses, whereas beforehand there was a lot more of us just here for fun.
Yeah.
You know.
I would agree with that.
When you're business minded, you're a little bit more closed off. You're a little bit more afraid to interact with the wrong person, or like someone steal your ideas or your competitors. It's a lot more competitive than it used to be. I think all those things kind of contribute to why SL doesn't feel as open as it used to. At least that's how I feel.
Can I say this from the perspective of someone who's taken a 4-year break? So before I was gone, like I ended up on the business side, so I got a little overwhelmed, and then real life happened and I had to like focus on that, like my kids starting school, acceleration, or, moving up in my career, so on and so forth. But what I will say is that I returned and I found a lot of people to be a lot more jaded than I remember. So you talk about like the competition and things like that. I don't know what happened. Like, what happened to collaboration? Like, what two can do what three can do individually, right? Like, if you work together with someone, you could get like 4x your energy, kind of. Like, I feel like a lot of people are very closed off. There's a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of mistrust of people on a basic level where it comes to connection. Like, you feel like someone may be lying to you or untrustworthy, and so
ulterior motives.
Exactly. So people are a lot more reserved, and I don't remember it being this way before.
That's because I don't think people were as focused on the profit aspect as they were before. I think we had a big culture shift as far as like the putting out videos and people getting more on social media and putting Second Life out there. And a lot of it is because this does attract a lot of people to the video, right? Like a lot of it's, how do I make money? How do you get rich? How do I quit my job? And you get this idea in your head, especially when you're new to Second Life, that there is this magical opportunity for you to do something enjoyable and make a significant amount of money from it. And there are people who do it, but the reality is most of that income and wealth is concentrated at the top, much like real life. So most of that money that you see every year that SL reports its financial activity is really concentrated at the top 10%. And then everybody else, unfortunately, is competing for a smaller pool of money. It's a smaller pool of users compared to other games, like, for example, Roblox, right? And also a lot of the items that are being created, because they're being created by people just coming in, you know, getting their foot off the door, starting new stores, there's a lot of similar items. So the competition's a lot heavier here, for better or for worse. There are definitely a lot of opportunities where it's way more beneficial for people to collaborate, and I try to find all of the possible ways that I can collaborate with people around me, because I do believe we're going to be stronger, and everybody benefits more when we can collaborate.
Absolutely.
But there's always going to be instances where it's just not going to make business sense for me to collaborate with someone. If someone is trying to offer the exact same thing as me, you know what I mean? I'm not going to really be able to benefit from collaborating, because now it's not really a mutually beneficial thing, right? We're either going to share, you know, the small pot of users created or users attracted to our specific business or our specific product, or you know, my people might shift over there. It's the same as when that university opened, right? There could have been an opportunity for collaboration there, but because they opened something that wasn't unique enough in its own way where it would have made sense for us to collaborate, because you offer something different, right? And you can attract a different type of user. I offer something different, and then we can share the users that like both. You know what I mean? That wasn't really an ideal opportunity there, and people felt that. People felt like they had to choose, and they, you know, a lot of people chose. So the reality is there is competition. Like, I'm not going to be naive and say that we can all, you know, just collaborate and be one happy family and everybody can make money. But I think that's where, like, you have to come in and put your business hat on, unfortunately, and not let it jade you to the point where you're completely adamant about not collabing with anyone, but also just like kind of analyze the market, and even before you start a business, be like, how am I going to be different? What's going to be different? What's going to set me apart? And then who can I collaborate with? Like, look around and see, like, oh, that would be a great, you know, partnership there. If we could have that was my whole idea, was having an airport where we could fly to different communities. You know, I have an LA themed sim, excuse me, it's getting late. I have an LA themed sim, but I would have loved to collaborate with like a New Haven, where it's so totally different, but it's very realistic for us to share people interested in both, right? But people are just, I don't know, like I think it's easier to get into certain things versus doing something unique. It's easier to follow, you know, the blueprint of what has worked for others, instead of thinking outside the box and going, well, what am I going to do different? Or analyzing, taking the time, not rushing into jumping into the market, but being like, okay, let me walk around here a little bit. Let's see what's missing. And then, is that something that I can offer? I think if people came in with that mindset, that they wouldn't be so afraid to collab, because, you know, like, you'd be offering something new and unique, that wouldn't necessarily automatically be a competitor to 100 other similar items. But at the same time, too, I think another reason why people are so jaded is it's just become easier and easier for people to take an idea and produce it, you know, quicker, or produce the exact same thing by hiring out or whatever, you know. Like, I think people get a little bit nervous thinking they're going to be quote unquote stolen from, like, oh, you know, if I do put this idea out there, or if I do tell someone what I'm thinking about doing, they're just going to make it faster than me, or they're just going to make it, and that kind of prevents people from reaching out, I think, more than they would. But I think the jadedness just comes from I don't know, just, I feel like the drama's been a lot higher in Second Life than it used to be. I don't know if it's who I'm around or if there's a culture shift somewhere. There's always been drama, but it just seems very hot. You know what it is? Actually, you know what? I just thought. Social media. SL Facebook. Social media has messed up like relationships in real life and in SL. I truly believe like ever since SL Facebook and that type of thing and outside social media for inside SL, I think it's gotten a little bit more, I don't know, negative. Just negative and cliquey. Unfortunately, but I'm hoping that'll change, and I do think that just offering more experiences for different types of people could help shift that balance, so it's not so much focused on like who's popular with the biggest store and who has the most popular sim and who has the best this or that. Like it can kind of come back to it being fun. Like we're all just trying to create a fun city where we can have role play and interactions. That's what it should be. That's what it used to be.
Yeah. That's a lot to take in. In terms of the drama, I always feel like it's what are you going to let in? Like I always say this, if it's not, protect your energy above all, right? And you have to be discerning when it comes to picking friends, partners, so on and so forth. But of course, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't give it 5 minutes. We kind of tend to focus on things that really is not going to matter in the long run. It's so funny.
Yeah, but then that's like, I feel like that's where the avoiding comes in, because you're like, well, I don't want to participate in the drama, so maybe I won't go to that party, or maybe I won't, you know what I mean? Or, oh, I had an issue with this person, so now maybe all of these people hate me. And like, I hate to say that that's a genuine fear that anyone should be afraid of, but just like real life, personal public opinion does matter when it comes to your business. Absolutely.
I would agree with that.
It's unfortunate.
But
it's unfortunate.
But Angel, I also think it's how you handle it, right? Because conflict is a part of life. Even with your intimate partner, someone who I assume you love more than anyone, your children, your parents, like you're going to have conflict. It's how you navigate it. So I wouldn't expect never to have, I don't have conflict often in SL. But I wouldn't expect never to have conflict or disagreements with friends. It's just how you're going to handle it. And that's something that's internal. I don't think you should be fearful to go places or interact with people, as a result of heightened drama or social media or anything like that. You just have to determine how you're going to deal with that.
It's not just how, though, it's who, because it's so cliquey. It's so cliquey. And also there are power players on this game, and the power players are the people who offer something that you can't get anywhere else. And my mistake when I came in was being the outspoken Leo that I am, thinking that I could always say what was on my mind if I disagreed with someone here and there. And that has come to bite me back in the ass, whether that's whether that's right or wrong, whether it should be that way or not. It has affected, my business at some points. It's oh, well, I don't want to also be on this person's bad side, because then I'll get banned from all these stores that I like, or then I won't be able to, hire this person for this project, for this landscape, for this, so how much pull you have in SL does rest, on what you can offer and who you should pick your battles with, honestly. If that's one piece of real advice that I hate giving, but like it just has to be said, like you really got to pick your battles here, because it's a small community relatively, like just Second Life in general is kind of small, and people who do offer something you can't get anywhere else will have more pull than you think they should. And if you're in here for business, sometimes you're going to have to unfortunately bite your tongue I'm learning that now. Not every battle is worth fighting.
I agree.
But again, even all the people that I have, power players here that I have pissed off. I think people always came back, even when they said they wouldn't, and they don't think I knew they said they wouldn't, because I'll be on Facebook, I'll be seeing it. But even people who said they wouldn't do come back when they feel like there's something fun going on at Luxe. There's something really cool, and I want to participate. But that's really where I focus my energy the most, is what am I offering here.
I agree with that. And I just want to complement that advice too by also saying this, in an unreleased chapter of a unknown book or untitled book, which is tone matters. Like, your tone matters, your delivery matters, the setting matters. Like, maybe you don't, if I'm not saying this about you, Angel, I'm just saying it in general. If you have conflict with someone, maybe you don't want to discuss it out in the open with other people, or you don't want to discuss it on Facebook or Instagram, under the comment section. Like, these things matter. How you present the information matters as well. That's why I do say it's how you navigate it as well. But also, like you said, not everything needs to be addressed. Like, sometimes you just got to move differently. You got to observe, pick up what's being put down, and then just move a little bit differently. That's all.
Prioritize.
But you're right. We are within a community, and this is a network, and it's not so small. It's not a small network, so you don't want to burn bridges if you don't have to. So that's a really good tip. What other tips do you have for aspiring RP community owners?
I would say definitely don't rush into it. Take your time, especially if you're new here. Just observe first. Like, try to find different things that might be similar to what you're coming in and interested in creating, and before you just go ahead and make it. And definitely don't look at what other people are doing successfully and try to replicate it, because I think you're going to benefit more from coming in and presenting something unique, presenting something new and fresh. Put more on creativity than anything else, because you can make the most beautiful looking sim, you know what I mean, with all the new high-tech gadgets. But if someone could easily replicate it, or if it's already somewhere else, then you're going to be competing with other things. And it's very easy to honestly make a beautiful sim. They come and go all the time. You should really take a step back and think about what's going to make me unique for the long run, and how, if let's say someone does replicate what I'm doing, how can I adapt? How can I do something different, keep it fresh, keep something new coming, so that people will stay and not just come for a short term and then go to the next fun thing. So I would say that's probably my biggest advice, is take your time and figure out where the market needs a need, and then fill it.
Very well said. Okay, so we're 2 hours into this interview, and I hate to see you go, but
sorry, I could talk a long time.
I hope that everyone enjoys it. I'm gonna try to put timestamps in here, like especially when you talk about life RP, navigating conflict in SL, like those sorts of things. So I wanted to show some of your rentals. Like, do you want to do a part 2, like a where to rent in SL, like, or do you want to show some rentals very quickly towards the end now?
I think we should definitely do a part 2. There's just so many places.
I know. So we'll do part 2, guys. It'll be a tour, and this will be like kind of either the pros and cons of opening an RP sim, or the truth about RP sim with like an experienced RP sim owner who's been running this business for 6 years, almost 7 years, which is a feat in itself. So thank you so much, Angel, for being on the channel and sharing all the knowledge, dropping jewels.
Yeah. Time. I've done a lot of SL businesses too, like a lot. So I owned a whole red light district at one point.
Oh, Lord.
So if there's any other, business insights you might want to talk about another time, don't hesitate to invite me. I always love being here and talking to you.
Aw, same. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day or night whenever you're watching. And please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and of course, come back. Bye.
Bye.